What is going on, everybody? It is December the 3rd. I cannot believe it's December. It is 82 degrees in Phoenix, Arizona, so it does not feel like December. And with how quickly the season is going, I cannot believe it's December because October feels like it was 2 weeks ago. And here we are, a quarter of the way through the season, and the Utah Hockey Club is still kind of flirting with about 0.500 win percentile. We're slightly under it now, kind of hovering around a potential wild card spot. And we got to just kind of take a little bit of time on this episode of Quick Hits to just kind of break down where the team's at, what we're seeing. And we got a very special guest straight from KSL. Cole Bagely is going to be joining us to kind of talk about all of that. I am Brad. We got Clean Hits Trent, Clean Hits Corey from Toronto, and of course, Cole. Cole, how are you doing? You had a nice long road trip, right?
Yeah, it was really fun. Boston was spectacular, and Pittsburgh was absolutely incredible. Unfortunately, didn't get to Toronto because Taylor Swift's concert made everything like 100 times the price that it should have been. And then just the fact that we didn't do Toronto, I didn't get to go to Montreal either. But Boston and Pittsburgh were just unforgettable experiences. So had a lot of fun there, and it was a good time to see Utah. Split the road trip, kind of like we talked about. It was
Yep.
necessary for them to pick up at least 4 points, and they did that. So yeah, it was really good.
That's awesome, Colin, especially for somebody who's a Utah native, a hockey diehard, and a lifelong Penguins fan to be able to get out there to see the Pens. What was that like?
It was incredible. I'd never been to Pittsburgh before. Yeah, a little bit of background. So I got introduced to hockey during the Olympics in 2002, and as I started playing and stuff like that, we were kind of looking for a team, and a couple years went by, and I remember I had a teammate walk into the locker room wearing a Sidney Crosby jersey, and I was like, "Oh, who's Crosby?" And so he's like, "Oh man, he's the next Gretzky. He's the next great NHL player. You got to follow him." So my dad and I took him up on the invitation, and we fell in love with his game right away, and that's when he came into the league. We've been huge Penguins fans, Crosby fans, pretty much my entire life, the last 20 years, his entire career. Never been to Pittsburgh before, funny enough, but watched every one of his 3 Stanley Cups, big games, the Winter Classics that he played in, and most of the playoff series, and a handful of other games that were available for us to consume. So finally made it to Pittsburgh. My parents actually flew out to meet me there as well. They bought tickets, and I was up on press row, and it is a sneaky good town. I've never really
Yeah.
heard people talk about Pittsburgh before, but it's a gorgeous town. It sits on the rivers. It's got all these steel bridges. All three of their professional teams wear the same colors, and really, I feel like the city kind of revolves around those sports teams. The Steelers, the Pirates, and the Penguins. And what I was most impressed with in terms of the fans was, I mean, they were as well versed as any insider would be. My Uber driver, my waiter, just regular fans at the hotel, security people. Like I had really deep conversations about Penguins hockey with every single one of them, and it was really cool. To see people embrace a team that way. I hope that Utah can reach a point where they embrace the team like the city of Pittsburgh has embraced the Penguins.
Yeah, I absolutely love Pittsburgh. I've been there quite a few times. I was there this summer, actually. Was almost going to go watch Cooley and kind of their local summer league. We had somebody from the Discord kind of tip me off of where they're playing, but it was just a little too far to get out. But the whole sports scene out there is really excellent. Like you mentioned, there are some bars you can still smoke in. So if that's your thing, Pittsburgh may be the city for you. But yeah, whenever I'm there, it almost feels like a weird European city that was like pulled out of Europe and planted in Midwest America. It's definitely a place to go to. So Utah fan circle maybe a road trip out to Pittsburgh next season to catch the club out there. Can't recommend it enough. Now, were you okay with the team absolutely spanking the Penguins, or did that kind of pull your heartstrings in both ways?
I was going back and forth, texting somebody from the front office and of the Utah Hockey Club, and I said, how about the boys get a win tonight, 4-1, but Crosby gets his 600th goal, and that front office member said, all right, that sounds good to me. They ended up winning 6-1, but it was, I cover the Utah Hockey Club. It's way more fun when they win. It was incredible to see them score so many goals. It was much needed, especially after losing to Boston 1-0. It was great to see them score so much, for Dylan Guenther to get going again, and Logan Cooley to play as well as he did, Jack McBain, Keller, all the guys that scored that night. It was a lot of fun, and then to see Crosby score 600. The press are not often cheering, but everybody that night on press row was cheering when he scored, and it was kind of a gift power play that Utah gave him, and that puck came across, and Crosby was right on that that near post. And as soon as that puck came across to him from Carlson, I went, he's going to score, and he put it away, which was a lot of fun to be there and see. Pittsburgh exploded. That was the loudest that the arena got all night. The bench cleared. They're all embracing him. And like I said, everybody, gave him a standing ovation, even the press. And I joined in on that because, how many times you get to see a moment such as that. So special to be there. Because he scored, I went down to the Penguins locker room to talk to him. Wasn't going to miss out on an opportunity like that. I pushed my way through about 30 people, got right up front. Funny enough, it just kind of speaks to his character. Penguins locker room was a full locker room, and I don't know who. I didn't recognize the teammates to his left and his right, but he asked them very nicely, "Hey guys, can you, clear out here so that the media can get up front?" Not so that he could, boast to more people about him, but he just understands, like, hey, there's a lot of people in here. They got jobs to do. Let's make sure everybody gets, an opportunity to be part of this. And I got right up front, and I actually was balancing on one leg, recording the whole thing, because there were two other guys reaching across me, to get the audio. And I know how that thing, those things go. I knew that they were all going to ask him about goal 600. So about 3 or 4 questions went by, and I said, all right, here's my opportunity. I got to talk to Sid. And I asked him, what advice would you give Clayton Keller as the newest captain in the NHL? And, again, speaking to his character, he gave like a 60-second answer that was amazing. Wow. I think it actually made SportsCenter on, the following night, because it just, how often does somebody like that get to, publicly address, the newest captain, the newest member of that group in the NHL. So it was really cool. I was shaking the whole time I was talking to him, like my phone, my hand's going like that. But it was an unforgettable moment. To be able to talk to him. After we spoke to him, I thanked him. I went to the middle of the Penguins locker room. I was like, I don't know how many more times I'm going to be in this room. So took a quick scan, and then I bolted to get over to Utah's press conference to talk to Dylan Guenther and coach. And it was, like I said, amazing, unforgettable. I love to be able to share that moment with my parents. My dad's texting me, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm in there. I saw Crosby score." So, a lot of fun. Like you mentioned, if there's any Utah fans that want to travel, that want to go to a city to experience an incredible hockey town, Pittsburgh for sure. It's not glamorous, but it's very like that. The team and the fan base are so connected. They're one and the same. There's a deep love on both sides, and it's a hockey town for sure.
Yep.
Incredible experience.
Yeah.
The only thing that would have made that story better, Cole, is if you and Crosby and everybody went out to those bars where you could smoke cigarettes and afterward and had a few darts together to celebrate. No, I'm just kidding.
Celebratory cigar.
Let's leave the cigarettes to the others. Yeah, we'll abstain from all of that here on Clean Hits. Just saying, clean living, right?
Yep. Yeah, and absolutely. If you have not checked out that article that kind of talks about Crosby and his advice to Captain Caller, make sure you check that out at kslsports.com and make sure you're giving Cole a follow at Bagely KSL Sports on the X Machine. So it sounded like you had a little bit of up and down emotions in Pittsburgh. And since that win, the team has kind of gone up and down. The next game they lost against Toronto, bounced back in an overtime victory against Montreal, lost in overtime against Edmonton, won in the first shutout with the first shorthanded goal against Vegas,
goal,
and
the first Carcone
first
goal.
Schmaltz goal on top of it. Yep. And then, unfortunately, lost last night to the Dallas Stars. So every type of win possible has kind of happened since that Boston game. How are we all feeling about this team? I know we did a post-game show last night, and honestly, I think the team deserved to win. That was a great game by the team. I will say maybe they didn't quite push the pedal to the metal enough to get that win. Maybe they should have pounced a little bit earlier. But Dallas is a very, very complete team, and they kind of ran with them for the entire game.
Yeah, I think last night was probably our best loss of the season, right? After throwing away games, getting beat, I think it was 4-0 to Nashville when they were in the basement, losing in regulation to Vegas, despite leading twice in that game and losing in the last minute. Throwing away points in San Jose, not even playing that second period in Toronto because most of it was in the penalty box, throwing away points and a lot of losses. But last night's game deserved at least a point, probably two, and 11 losses on the year. And that was probably their best loss, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And let's not forget,
it dropped them below that magical hockey 500 number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we got to say it's the NHL 500 because it's not, even wins and losses. It's the point system. But yeah, they're down a little bit below 500, and it just kind of describes the season so far, where if you can't win two in a row, and you don't often lose two in a row, you're going to end up being pretty darn close to 500, right? So that's where, to your point, Brad, it's been up and down and a little bit frustrating, where it's like we're seeing some silver linings, but it's like at some point we need more than just linings, right? Let's get some momentum.
Yes,
I got to agree with Corey. I think last night's loss was probably the best of the season. It's a really good hockey game. After the first period, it was locked at 0, and that's about as exciting as a scoreless hockey game can be. It was back and forth. The energy was high. It was high pace, very quick, lots of good chances on both ends. Unfortunately, though, the second period continues to plague this hockey team. Over their last 4 losses, they've been outscored in the second period 9-0. And, I asked Schmaltz and Carcone last night about it, and they both were like, yeah, it's really weird. Don't really know why that's an issue. But, they kind of pointed to things like, we're maybe not making the best changes, line changes. We're not, maybe our D are hanging out there too long. And then penalties continue to be a problem in the second period. I think they've given up 4 or 5 power play goals to opposing teams in the second. Last night was, I think just kind of a lack of composure from Keller. Got called for a holding penalty while on the ice. I don't remember who it was against, but it just feels like they lose their composure. The wheels come off a little bit in the second. They drop a couple goals, and then they're fighting to get out of it in the third period. And when they've lost, it's because they've come up short. It happened against Edmonton, in that overtime period. It happened last night. They couldn't get the game-tying goal, and it happened against Toronto. They couldn't get the game-tying goal late in the third period. So they play remarkably good at full strength, 5-on-5 in the first and third periods. Right now, the second period, full of penalties, just continues to be their Achilles heel.
Yeah, and you do have to kind of wonder if some of that is maybe pushing very hard in the first, and because of maybe a little bit of the lack of depth with all the injury issues they're having, that it starts to kind of slowly bite them as the game wears on, and maybe that second period is where that lull is really taking place. And I wonder if that's kind of a mental thing. But losing Maverick Lamoureux, who is eating a good, healthy amount of minutes and being able to play a nice two-way game for 4 to 6 weeks now, is going to make this blue line even thinner, and it's going to make other players really need to step up. So I think it's going to be really interesting, especially on these next two road games against Buffalo and Philly, how they adjust, because these are both very winnable games. And then on top of that, it sounds like Ingram may be out longer than expected. Cole, do you have any information on that or any updates there?
He's not close.
Okay.
That's as much as I can say. He's not close. It's not like a 1 to 2 week type deal, because we're already approaching that, second full week with him gone. It's not close. So I would expect a good amount of Vamelka between the pipes, and Stauber filling in here and there, and depending on how Stauber does, maybe they go 70-30, Veg and Staub. But we're the Utah Hockey Club's going to be without Ingram for a while.
Do you feel there's a need
that's
to
a
bring
bummer.
in another goalie? We're kind of taking Jackson Stauber away from Tucson and lessening them right now. Where at the same time you don't want to do that to your minor league team, but can Jackson Stauber play a decent amount of games long term in the NHL level?
Yeah, I think what we saw against Vegas just kind of shows what Stauber's capable of.
Mhm.
I think for him, it's finding consistency. So it'll be interesting to see, as they go on this 2-game road trip. I think 4 of the next 5 games are on the road. So, I would imagine he's going to play 1 or 2 of the next 5. And we'll see what he can do. If he can stay above kind of that 900 save percentage, I think you're fine. I think you just roll with Veg, starting most nights, and Stauber filling in, when you need to give Vamelka a rest. So I think it's to be determined, but as of right now, I think they're comfortable with the 2 goalies they have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that we all love Connor Ingram, right? He's awesome. He's such a great story. Won the Masterson Award, and really embraced Utah, and easy to cheer for guy. I think that's pretty universal. But Greg Wyshynski today had an article that he posted in ESPN that was basically making kind of the statistical case that Connor Ingram has been the least effective starter statistically in the NHL this year in the whole league. So him being gone is a huge bummer, and I expect him to rebound at some point, and that may be delayed as a result of his absence. But they haven't really had the Connor Ingram that we've all counted on to start the year anyhow, given the statistical profile of his performance this year. So that's maybe one piece, is that his play hasn't been so strong that it may not be missed so dearly, right?
Yeah, it's been a tough stretch for Ingram this year. Even though he had a pretty decent record out of the gate, his goaltending was just not up to par in a lot of those games. Despite wins, they were kind of overshadowed. The team was winning 6-5, 5-2. They were scoring a lot of goals. They scored 20 goals in the first 5 games, and they got 3 wins out of those. So it's been a struggle, I think. He just hasn't looked quite himself. He hasn't been as reactionary. He's been giving up a lot of rebounds, and that's why I think Vamelka's really stepped in. And it's funny because Vamelka has been quite a bit better, but the games he's given up a goal or two, they're losing by 1 goal.
Yeah.
Which is I'm sure frustrating. I mean, Vamelka's been, I think, a top 10 goaltender in the NHL in starts, and he's got the worst record because when he's playing out of his mind, unfortunately, on the other side, they're not getting a lot of help out of the forwards. I mean, to only give up 2 goals to Dallas and lose 2-1, Veg was really as good as you could ask him to be. I mean, especially because one of those goals was a power play goal that there was definitely some goaltender interference that just got overlooked. Vejmelka's been fantastic. Staubert is a small sample size, but I was blown away by how good he played against a phenomenal Golden Knights team that I think was third in goals coming into that game, averaging I think 3.5, and he posted a goose egg on him. So, like I said, I think they're okay with the goaltenders they have right now. Vejmelka's playing out of his mind. It just hopefully those results kind of start to match his efforts. It's hard to post a shutout very often. So when you can get a goaltender that's giving you an opportunity to win games by only giving up a goal or two, you got to reward him on the other end and put multiple on the other side to get him some wins.
Yeah, and one interesting thing with Vejmelka too is this is the best he's played since that first season he came into the league and really kind of turned some heads. I mean, the Arizona Coyotes at the time was arguably the worst phase of the rebuild, as far as they had just torn everything down, were pretty weak, especially in the forward position. You bring in a new goalie and a lot of adjustments to be kind of made. And it seems like when Vejmelka has that confidence and is able to ride it, he can kind of continually play better. So again, it's kind of strange, but in a weird way, with Ingram out right now, he's definitely got the spotlight. He's hot right now, and he's definitely carrying it. It's going to be interesting to see, though, if the workload is where we start to see some cracks and how he handles that. And I think, in my honest opinion, that will probably determine if there's another move for another backup who can maybe carry a little bit more of the load, or if this is just going to be kind of the tandem we see for a little bit here and until Ingram can come back.
It's a big year for Vejmelka too, right? Pending unrestricted free agent. We've seen this from him too in the past, where he'll have a hot stretch and then he'll have a poor stretch, where if you look at his numbers over the last 2 years, he's just kind of floating around the 900 save percentage mark. So not great, not a starter quality, but just a little bit better than a backup, you could say. But it's tough, right? Because what does that next contract look for him? I mean, if you're signing it right now, based on how he's played, he's going to get a pile of money. But we've also seen that these numbers do tend to come down with him, where he's not going to stay at that 920 or whatever it is save percentage. He has shown he's done better with more of a workload, but at some point he does get to tire out. I mean, like any goalie would, obviously, but if he can handle more than 50 games, that's to be determined, because in the past he's struggled with that.
Yep, agreed. It's going to be an interesting next couple of weeks, and I think luckily the schedule kind of eases up as far as kind of the quality of opponents. Obviously, this is the professional league; every team is going to be tough, but I think we just kind of went through one of the most difficult patches of opposing teams in a row. So again, this is going to be a good little test coming up. And unfortunately, I've double dipped. So I'm going to let you boys carry the rest of the show away, and I will catch you all later this week. Thanks again for coming on the show, Cole, and have fun while I'm out. Bye, everybody.
See you, Brad.
See it.
All right. And then there were three. And speaking of three, Cole, I think maybe the last time you were on, or the time before, we talked about 3 stars for October. I'm wondering, I think we put out our 3 stars for November. Corey, correct me if I'm wrong. I think
it's not put out yet, but hopefully soon.
Okay, all right.
But we can reveal it, because this will be after.
There you go, Corey. Why don't you? What would be your 3 stars, Corey?
I mean, in our mind, we were talking about there was some honorable mentions, but there was really a 1 and a 2 who were locked in. Number 1, Logan Cooley. The team finished 1 game under 500 on the month, but Logan Cooley was the top of the list in terms of offense. So 13 games, 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points. Basically a point per game. Continuing to show that rookie season that was fairly effective. 44 points, I believe it was. And doesn't look like a sophomore slump is coming for him. He's on pace to finish with 60-something points based on last month. And, that's a huge uptick for a second-year player. In our mind, he's the first star for November. Mikhail Sergachev, number 2. I think we had him. I think we had number 3 for this month, but we'll talk about Sergachev anyway. 2-game winning goals, huge, right? Continues to hold down 25 minutes. He's wearing the A. He just continues to show what a leader he is for this group. And obviously the other star for the month is Karel Vejmelka. We talked about gets all kinds of wins. Save percentage is right near the top of the league. Goals against is right near the top of the league. There were a couple of other contenders for the list. Clayton Keller was near a point per game, but hard to put him on that list when he had 1 goal in the whole month, and it came right at the end of the month. Dylan Guenther had 11 points, so just 1 less point than Logan Cooley, but kind of came in patches with him, right? I mean, he is a bit of a streaky player, especially goal scoring, but Logan Cooley a bit more consistent over the course of the month, so he wins it over Guenther.
And what do you think, Cole? Who would you have as your 3 as he's talking through that?
Yeah, I mean, my 3, I think, are pretty much the same. I'll give some honorable mentions. I think Jack McBain had a phenomenal month. I think right now he's still second on the team in goal scored. I think with 8, just second behind Guenther. Hopefully for McBain, it's sustainable and not just some little hot stretch. But I like what I've seen from him, especially. He was so much more effective when he played on the line with Guenther and Cooley, just because of the speed, the creativity, and the sharpshooting of Guenther and how dangerous Cooley can be. It opens up a lot of space for McBain, and then what he does in front of the net opens up space for them. So McBain, an honorable mention. I think Kerfoot deserves a little bit of an honorable mention as well. Yeah. He's not always a guy that ends up on the score sheet, but he is a very good veteran. He's been in the league for a while. He's played for some good teams. He just does things that sometimes go unnoticed. But he wins pucks in dangerous areas. He has a very good active stick. He's very smart. It's like the shorthanded goal he scored against Vegas. He was originally heading for the goaltender. He recognizes that Samsonov did not see him, and he knew where the puck was going, cuts it off. He actually told me that when he released the puck, it was not going in. But the way that it was tipped by Samsonov and ended up in the back of the net. So I love his hockey IQ. He's very smart, and he's had some good goals and some good assists in big moments for this team. So that's another honorable mention. Number 3, I'm going to agree with you. I think Vejmelka has been very, very good. He's answered the call. He's had one of the top 5 at times and top 10 in terms of save percentage, goals against. He's given this team opportunities to win, even though they haven't always rewarded his efforts with a W. He has put them in areas against very good teams to do so. And that game against Carolina almost felt like a really big step in the right direction, even though they have not yet put together back-to-back wins. It felt like the team's efforts and energy kind of shifted after that game. Gave them confidence that they've got a guy in net now that will bail them out when they have some breakdowns and whatnot. So go with him 3. Number 2, I'm going to go with Cooley. He is an unbelievable player. I actually see a lot of Crosby in his game. With his speed, with his creativity, with his ability to put the puck in dangerous areas, his stick handling. He's very, very smart. I mean, we've seen how many between the leg passes from him over the last couple weeks. He's got incredible hockey IQ, great handles, and just immense speed. I love Cooley, and it's incredible that he's only 21. I mean, he's just scratching the surface. He's only going to get better from here. You mentioned his stats. He's really come alive. He's figuring things out. When the season first started, it looked kind of like a sophomore slump, but he's come back with a vengeance, and November was very productive. So hopefully he can keep that up and finish with 60-plus points. That would be huge for this team. Number 1, I'm going to go with Sergachev. Obviously he has his contributions on the ice, like you mentioned, 2-game winning goals. That one in Montreal was huge. Utah absolutely needed to win that game, and he stepped up. That was a defenseman that was crashing the net and putting himself in a place to score a goal, which just kind of speaks to how well balanced he is as a player. He's effective on both ends of the ice. he also, I believe, before last night was tied for third in goals from defensemen. He's got six on the year. He's got 16 total points, which I think puts him in fourth or fifth on the Utah Hockey Club roster. And he's just this calm, incredible presence on the blue line. How difficult has his job been to play 25 plus minutes a night, to hold down the defense with so much inexperience? You've got youth in Kesselring and Coley, and then you've got some older guys that aren't as polished as they once were. But Sergachev has just played his game. He's very calm. He has a very strong presence. He never panics. I've never seen a moment where he panics. And then the things that he's doing as a leader on and off the ice is why he has already been, given an A on this team. And it's been needed. Some of the other leaders on this team have struggled early in the year. Right. And so to see a guy like that so quickly, earn the respect of his teammates, the coaching staff, that's not something that he was really worried about coming in to this new team. We talked to him about it early on. We asked, do you want to be part of the leadership group? And he's like, yeah, I don't really, it's not something that crosses my mind. I'm just here to play hockey. I'm here to be an effective two-way player. But that has, his game has spoken, to his leadership and, the way that he carries himself in the locker room, the things that he says. He's one of the best interviews on the team. He's great to be around. He gives very good answers, and he's a straight shooter. He will tell the guys, look, we're messing around here, or we're not playing well in this area. We're struggling here. It's not acceptable. And so I have him at number one because I just think both, his contributions on and off the ice for this team have been huge, and a big reason that they're still in somewhat of a playoff contention. He has, I said on X, I think a week ago, that Utah won that trade against Tampa. And granted, it wasn't really a win-lose situation. But if I'm awarding a winner, it's Utah, because Sergachev has been everything and then some for this hockey club.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's a guy who's been to the mountaintop multiple times. He knows what it takes to get through seasons, get through adversity, get through highs and lows, how to find that consistency, how to lead by example through what he learned in Tampa, and what an excellent program they have been during his time there. And the nice thing is, he signed for so long. We're going to have him when the team's ready to compete, when they need that leadership the most, when they need somebody to lead the way who's been there before. He's going to be around, pulling the group forward as we look to brighter days ahead, when this group finally figures out the consistency side of things, and we can maybe win 2 games in a row first, then maybe the cup with some stuff in between, probably, right? But first things first, let's win 2 games in a row. And I'm looking at you, Philly. I'm looking at you, Buffalo. And I think we can do it. Let's take down these sons of guns out there in the East Coast. And let's get it done against Philly and Buffalo. What do you guys think?
I might be at the Buffalo game, so I just want to see a win regardless. I'm 0-3 on the season.
That's right. Poor Corey.
Maybe don't go, Corey.
Yeah, we need this. No, Corey's gonna break out of his slump, right? We're gonna see Krause will get back on the score sheet again. We've already got Carcone waking up from his slumber. We've got Schmaltz breaking the goal scoring seal. All these streaky guys are gonna get going at once, and it's gonna happen this December. That'll be the great Christmas present that all of us Utah hockey fans need from this club. Is let's go streaking. A little bit of win streak, and let's do it. So I think with that rosy outlook on hopefully December, now that we've kind of recapped November, that's about all I had for this quick hit today. Anything else you guys wanted to add? Nope. All right.
Nope.
Well, in that case, make sure you check out the Tija Ginla piece we published today on cleanhitshockey.com. You can find a link to all of our socials on our X account in the link tree there. Definitely join in the discussion on our totally free Discord. It's the most hopping place outside of the Delta Center on game days. You're going to find tons of Utah fans in there chopping it up all day, all night, all across the country and the globe. We've got great fans in there, so make sure you get in the conversation in our Discord as well. So now that I've got the plugs out of the way, go back and read Cole's piece on Pittsburgh and the hockey culture there and what it could mean for Utah, as well as all of his great work on KSL. Make sure you're following him on X, as well as Corey, myself, and the Clean Hits official account as well. If we've got nothing else, then I will sign off and look forward to games a little later in the week. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, talk later.
We know we running it now. Watch the game change. Watch the game change.